North America's love affair with the car shaped much of the infrastructure built by cities in post-World War II periods. For example, suburbs with no sidewalks and shopping malls you had to drive to. While that may have been great as the baby boom arrived, it turns out not to be quite as functional for this huge cohort as they stare down their golden years. And that's leading to questions about what age-friendly communities might look like and who's going to build them. Joining us now to consider that, Glenn Miller, Senior Associate for the Canadian Urban Institute and author of No Place to Grow Old, How Canadian Suburbs Can Become Age-Friendly. That's a new report from the Institute of Research on Public Policy. Frank Giannone is here. He's president of the Fram Building Group. Mary Lou Tanner is Commissioner of Planning for the City of Burlington. And Dr. Samir Sinha is the provincial lead for the Ontario Senior Strategy and co-chair of the Toronto Seniors Accountability Table. And it's good to welcome all four of you here to TVO tonight for us. I'm going to ask you three on the ends here just to sit tight for a bit, because Glenn Miller, you and I need to spend a few minutes here going over your report, in which you quote an urban planner who says the suburbs are no place to grow old.
Yes.
Why not?
Well, I think for the last 50 or 60 years, we've been building suburbs that are car dependent, where you need a car to get to everything. You have to drive to work, you drive to school, drive to get your shopping. And as people age and perhaps lose their mobility, then it becomes a real problem.
That's a huge thing, isn't it? The loss of independence because you might lose your driver's license because you might be too old or whatever.
Or maybe you can't afford it.
Or you can't afford it.
Yeah.
Good point. We're going to bring up a few pictures here, and then I'll get you to sort of describe, for example, you know the saying, what's wrong with this picture?
Well, I don't see a sidewalk. That's going to make it really difficult for somebody to make their way to shopping or to or to the bus, if there is a bus, if they can reach the bus.
So, and this is really a very typical image of much of suburban Ontario, yes?
Yeah, this could be anywhere.
Well, now, why would they have built these things with no sidewalks?
Well, one possibility is that the development charges that pay for all of the infrastructure, you can pay for the sidewalks there, but then the municipality has to maintain them. So if there are no sidewalks, then that reduces their liability.
It really does scream, we're all about the car here, doesn't it?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, let's put up this next image, which is something you would like to see more of. This is Port Credit Square, Mississauga. What do you like about what you see here?
Well, what I like about Port Credit Village, and Frank's going to be talking more about this, is that it is what I would say building age-friendly from the ground up. It has lots of amenities. You can walk to the GO station. There's a choice of housing. People can relocate into the village from the surrounding single-family dwellings. And there's a choice of housing from townhouses to mid-rise condos and eventually retirement residences. And Frank tells me that some people have actually made that transition 3 times.
In the same place?
Over a 15-year period.
You want to chime in on that, Frank?
Absolutely. We've seen it, quite a few people that have gone from buying a townhouse from us to buying a condominium in a building to moving into our retirement home, all within the same community.
Depending on their stage of life.
Depending on the stage of life, depending on mobility, depending on whether one of them is still around or not, if it's a couple. There are decisions that are made that move them from one place to another. And it's been good because most of those people also came from as Glenn said, came from the surrounding community. A lot of our buyers, probably 80% of our buyers were within a 5-kilometer radius.
Let me get Samir Sinha on the next part, because the cost of treating people in hospitals as they age obviously gets prohibitive at a certain point. Obviously, the government has sort of adopted, with I think a lot of consultation with you, a let's keep people in their homes as long as possible type of strategy. How does this have implications for where and how people live going forward?
Well, one of the challenges, as you said, when you ask where people aspire to end up, right? People say, I don't want to end up in a nursing home if I can. I'd like to age in my own home. I want to age in my own community, right? But the challenge is if you have mobility concerns, if you have things, say you're an older person who's been hospitalized or a younger person who's had an issue, and then returning to that community with the pictures that we just saw mean that your mobility is going to be significantly compromised. Maybe that no longer becomes an option. And if you don't live in an age-friendly community with options that Frank was just talking about, all of a sudden going back to your own communities, and you might have to actually live in hospital till we can source out a location that can provide you care. So why not not only just think about a healthcare system that's more responsive with more home care and other options, but actually start at the level of where we live and make sure we design it properly so you can age truly in place.
In which case, I go to the planner next. How much is all of this on your radar screen in Burlington, Ontario?
It's all on our radar screen. We've just released a new official plan that's going to take us for the next 25 years. We call it Build Up, Build Smart, and Build Beautiful. And this is all about the building smart, making sure that the city is walkable, the neighborhoods are walkable. We're going to build 3 new neighborhoods around our GO station. They're all going to be built on what we call a traditional grid street pattern, which is straight grids, 90-degree angles at the street. There's a theory about all of us as humans that if you can see where you're going when you walk, you will go there. And if it is confusing to your eye, your brain is going to say it's not safe and you're not going to do it. It's a very simple concept, but we need to translate that into how we build neighborhoods and build a multiplicity of housing types. So what Frank talked about and Samir talked about, people have choice in the community. That people do want to stay in their communities. They do want to age in their communities. They want to walk in their communities, and we want to make them accessible for them.
What were they thinking when they designed Don Mills, which is like this, right? And half the streets have the same name.
So there's some great research out of the University of Saskatchewan by their community health department, and they looked at what are neighborhood types. So there's the traditional grid that I just talked about, and that's the most walkable. Kids succeed, older adults succeed, people get out, they get to know their neighbors. There's what's called a fractured grid, which is somewhat of a grid and somewhat of spaghetti. And that's where we all get confused. And that's the least active suburb of all. And that happened in the 50s and 60s, where we're starting to build curvilinear streets. And then there's the more recent neighborhoods with curvilinear streets, which are second to the traditional grid. But when you start to get into that confusion to the brain, and I don't know if I can see where I'm going, so I'm not going to go there, I'm not going to use that street. And it becomes a mess of spaghetti with streets at different angles.
And it's Pleasant Street and Pleasant Avenue and Pleasant Boulevard all intersecting at various points of the spaghetti.
But it's very pleasant.
It's very pleasant, but a little confusing. In your report, Glenn, I think you've got 500 smaller communities and towns and larger cities, all of whom have declared their intent to become kind of more age-friendly.
That's right.
That sounds like an enormous undertaking, though. How's that going to happen?
Well, the age-friendly community concept was introduced by the World Health Organization 10 years ago. So it's only 10 years old. So it's actually had quite a rapid take-up. But right now, the focus is on engaging with older adults and having a conversation about what the priorities are. And the point I'm trying to make in the report is that these conversations are being held outside of the mainstream of the bureaucracy of how cities are built and operated.
So we need to get those conversations happening where?
That's right. Well, one place is right in the planning department. If you have an official plan and you have a council that has said, yes, we want to be age-friendly, to me, it makes a great deal of sense to actually acknowledge that in the plan. And then you can set up a system where you prioritize neighborhoods. You can pick the ones that have the biggest potential for change. You can target specific sites, like the former industrial site that Frank redeveloped in Mississauga, or Shops at Don Mills, which is a retail area that has gone through 3 lives. It's on its third life. I
should let him say a nice word about Don Mills, because the rest of Don Mills is really quite a lot of spaghetti, but you've turned the mall there into something quite different.
Well, it's interesting because, your question at the beginning is how do you make the suburbs work for seniors? And that's exactly what the challenge was at the Shops at Don Mills. We had a lot of seniors that had moved in 50 years ago into the suburbs that were Don Mills at the time. And the shops were just a strip plaza, and that strip plaza became an indoor mall, and eventually that indoor mall lost its key tenants, started to die, and Cadillac Fairview said, we're going to change things. And we did a bunch of focus groups, and very quickly we saw a huge demand for people wanting to stay in Don Mills and wanting to change the way they lived. And we're prepared to change the way they live to be able to stay at their their home base.
But one of the interesting things about that particular site is they've had World War III about 3 times around that site, because the first time it was an open-air shopping center. People loved it. They knew it. It went past its best before date. And when the decision was made to turn it into an interior mall, a closed mall, there were great protests. And 20 years later, another set of protests when the people who had gotten used to going there to do their winter walks, they wanted it to remain as a closed mall. Anyway, so they got over that, and they've built shops at Don Mills, and I think it's very successful because, as Frank says, people in the neighborhood can see where they're going, and they can have that option.
Well, it never looked like much. It looks a lot better now, that's for darn sure. I want to ask Samir Sinha this. Suburban living, does it actually pose a health risk for seniors?
Well, one of the challenges is that if you have an environment that doesn't enable walking, as Mary Lou was saying, right? So you have environments that don't have sidewalks, if the streets are all curvy, which is maybe fun if you're driving a car, but all of a sudden, you're promoting a more sedentary lifestyle. So all of a sudden, if the only way you can get down to the local shop is by actually getting in a car, and it's a sedentary form of transportation. I mean, the walk to your car and back, I guess, is some exercise. But the challenge is we've actually seen that there are higher rates of diabetes, higher rates of heart disease when people are living more sedentary lifestyles, and having an environment that promotes less walking, less getting around, is just one of those things that can actually make living in a suburban area a bit more risky unless you make it more walkable.
You've actually just anticipated where I want to go next, because that's right in your report, those very things. Sheldon, let's bring up this quote here. Concerned about the growing incidence of type 2 diabetes in Peel region in this case, public health officials pointed to the community's low-density, car-dependent built environment as a critical factor in this trend. Okay, so Mary Lou, you now find yourself in a situation where a lot of what we have out there encourages people to lead a more sedentary lifestyle. What planning principles do you have to bring to bear to change that and make these more age-friendly?
One of the things we've done in Burlington is our new official plan. We've prioritized walking, cycling, and transit ahead of cars. So when we make decisions about how we're going to build roads, how we're going to redevelop our neighborhoods that are aging, we are going to focus on pedestrians first. Every trip we make starts with us being a pedestrian in some way, shape, or form, whether we're walking to our car, walking to transit. But the other thing in Burlington, we've got a really good track record of not having super wide roads. We don't have 7-lane arterial roads. We have 5-lane arterial roads. That's the widest we've got, and that's the widest we're ever going to have. We have no suburbs left to build. We're built out. So we're all about building different forms of housing, and those need to be walkable. But the other thing that we're doing as well is we're making sure that we're looking at our city through what we call integrated mobility. So it's not just about cars. There's a place for cars, but it's about all users and making sure that all users have a safe and accessible place in our city.
There are going to be those who, when they hear pedestrians have the priority, cyclists have the priority, they're going to hear, aha, we're back to the war on the car. And a lot of people don't like the war on the car. Is that what's up here?
Absolutely not. It's not a war on the car. There's a place for cars in Burlington. There's a really, really good road network, and there's going to continue to be a really good road network for cars. What we are saying is we are going to look at all of our streets so that all users have a safe mode of travel in those roadways. It doesn't mean that pedestrians are going to have a wider sidewalk at the expense of cars, but it does mean that we are going to be making changes in our network so everybody has the options they need.
Share the road.
Share the road.
Share the road. Frank?
Steve, if I
yeah,
may.
please.
It's interesting because I look at it in a different way. We develop into the communities that we're building in. Cars are important to our customers. If we start with the 60-something-year-olds as seniors, if we say they were over 64, they consider themselves in the prime of their lives. They're able to travel a little bit more. They're still working. They're earning as good money as they could have earned.
Is anybody really buying that? 64 is the prime of your life?
I'm getting close.
Are you in the prime of your life, Frank?
I consider myself in the prime of my life.
Okay, good for you.
So I start there, but they're showing up at our developments with 2 cars, right? He's got a car, she's got a car. And it's less about what the cars that they own, about how do you make them pedestrian. It's how often do they use their cars, or how often are they walking? And for us, it's important to have a community that we can influence the amenities. The concept of having the restaurants, as we did at the Shops at Don Mills. The restaurants are the anchors.
Let's bring that shot up again, if you would, Sheldon, because we brought this up briefly a second ago, but let's bring your Shops at Don Mills up one more time, and you can actually speak to the picture and tell us, okay, why does this work in your view?
Well, we front the square with food amenities. So we've got cafes, ice cream shop, restaurants all around the square. That's where people want to be. That's where people want to see the world go by. And in the meantime, all around it are the shops that they would use for their daily goods at the Metro or at McEwen's. Different opportunities for their food, different opportunities for the regular shopping. Everything is there. So when they leave home, they can handle what they need to buy, but they can also handle where they want to see the world go by. It's right there in front of their door. Entertainment is a big part of it, how you program the spaces. So we've always been an advocate of, in the summertime, having some music out there on a Saturday and Sunday, just again to draw people and to draw their friends into that space. In the wintertime, we have a skating rink at the Shops at Don Mills, so that it gets used there's a use there in the
All year round. Let's put. I mean, that's basically a two-story operation. Let's bring up another one that you're doing. This one's in North York, which is essentially kind of the northwest part of Toronto, and this one's called Flair Condos. Want to bring that up, Sheldon? There we go. Okay, what do we like about this?
Well, so this is on the edge of the Shops at Don Mills, and it's a 300-unit condominium in what looks like two buildings. It's connected at the base. Units were designed so that they could be put together. So we have an average unit size of 650 square feet, which is the Toronto norm today.
It's pretty small.
But the units were actually designed so that you could buy one or two units already in advance, designed so that you don't have to pay a premium to have a customization happen by putting two units together. We sold probably 35 units that were combo units specifically to the older buyers that wanted to stay in that area. We're prepared to downsize, but not downsize to a unit that's the norm in the market.
Glenn, why do you find that consistent with what you're all about?
Well, it's giving people a choice. I think another example I'd like to bring up is out in BC, where a good friend of mine, actually the fellow who gave me the idea for suburbs as no place to grow old, he runs an organization called University, which is a sustainable development adjacent to the university, and they have some high-rise units there where the units are two-story, and so on one level you have a small part of the unit, and then it's a bigger unit upstairs, and you, depending on your stage in life, you can either rent one out or rent the other out. And so you've got that flexibility. But if you've got a growing family and you need all of the space, then it's all yours. The other thing which is important is there's no single detached housing in the development. And when they developed the retail facilities along a little main street, they subsidized the retail operation until such time as there was sufficient market demand. So that people could make the decision to move there with just one car if they wanted to do that.
You know, again, some people are going to be wondering, the boomers seem to be in charge of everything these days, right? Why pointedly design a community around the needs of boomers when there are other demographics that say you ought to take our needs into account as well?
Yeah, I think the boomers get a lot of attention because they're a big group, right? And it's interesting because I remember wrestling with Mary McCallion about this, where she was saying, like, why should we be focusing more on the elderly in Peel Region, for example? And I said, well, Mayor, when you started your city, when you started the small city of Mississauga, you were developing it for a young community. And if we're thinking about a city that thinks about its overall population, you've got to think of a region that's aging and wants to age in place. And so it's not about, I think the boomers get attention, but I think they're drawing attention to issues that we've neglected in the past. So just like Mary Lou and others have been focusing on more age-friendly or universal design, we often have the saying, if you design for the old, you're also designing for everybody, for example. And it's not necessarily about designing for a specific age group, it's just taking universal principles in place. So we're recognizing, as I was saying before, it's not a matter of when I get older and I'm more likely to be living potentially with cognitive or physical impairments. But I could walk out of here, and I hope it doesn't happen, but I could get hit by a car and I could have some of those same issues that other populations have. So, when Frank or Glenn or Mary Lou were talking about communities that I want to age in place in, I want to make sure it can be able to handle, and support me at any stage in my life, regardless of age.
Sorry, you wanted to
I
add?
was just going to say that's actually a definition of an age-friendly city, is a place that works for people at all stages of their life.
All ages and stages.
Yeah.
Let's do another excerpt from the report, shall we? Go ahead, Sheldon. Let's bring this up. The work being carried out to make communities more age-friendly is still removed from the formal planning and development processes that determine the physical form of urban and suburban neighborhoods. The challenge of overcoming the entrenched practices that determine how we build our cities should not be underestimated. A key question, then, is how do we refocus community planning efforts to encourage the development of age-friendly neighborhoods that can allow people of all ages to live healthy, productive lives? Some good questions there. Planner, what do we say?
It's interesting because one of our developments near the Burlington GO station, the Molinaro Group, they tell us that people in their 20s and people in their 60s want the same things. And it's accessibility to transit. They want a unit that they can close the door and walk away from, and they want to be able to walk and bike. A similar development near that GO station, when I first started with the city, came forward and they wanted a reduction in parking. And we said to them, okay, well, we want you to provide Presto passes for future residents. We want you to provide bike parking, and we want you to provide car share with cars in it.
This is the city to the developer.
The city to the developer.
Okay.
And
What was the reaction?
they bit right away, which meant we went in too low, to be honest.
I mean, they said okay to everything?
Absolutely.
So you should ask for more.
We should have asked for more. But what we are finding, and this happened as recently as last week, I was at a public meeting for development downtown, and people were a little concerned that it was one parking spot being proposed for each unit in the building. But about a third of the people there said, if you provide car share in my building, I'm going to give up my car. I'm definitely giving up my second car. And they were people who were probably in their 60s and 70s. And so, I don't think we should underestimate where people are at and think that we're out in front of them, because at times we are lagging them. But we're seeing a real shift where older adults, they want car share, they want walkability, they want transit, and many of them want bike share as well. They don't necessarily want bikes clogging up their unit, but they want access to bike share.
And there's a really interesting statistic here, is that Statistics Canada looked at older drivers in Canada, and they said the number one form of transportation for older drivers, because we created a driver-dependent society, is by being a driver of a car. And the funny part was the second most common form of transportation for older adults is being a passenger in a car, right? So the question is, we've created such a car-dependent group, and when you look at bicycling, use of transit, it's less than 10%. But I think it's not because people don't want to use it. I just don't think we made it accessible.
Well, you also have to remember that a lot of people are being asked to use transit for the first time in many decades.
Exactly.
And the Statistics Canada also has some excellent research that shows that the propensity for people to start using transit, it's a tough road to hoe.
Public transit, if you haven't used it in years, you ever taken the subway in this city? It's fast. People are whizzing by you. That takes some getting used to again, doesn't it?
Well, Samir mentioned universal design. One of the concepts inherent in universal design is have comprehensible information. And so people have to know where they're going. To Mary Lou's point, if you can see where you're going, you're more likely to go there. And you also have to be able to understand the pricing system. Introduction of Presto in this region will probably have some positive impacts.
But one of the neat things, Kitchener-Waterloo, I mean, when I was traveling around the province gaining ideas, they did a really neat thing with their transit. They said, look, we've got this older demographic that now needs to learn transit, but it's not even for an older person, for anybody who's saying, I don't know how to work it. Like, where do I put the token in? Or do I use the Presto card? If it beeps, what do I do? And so they actually have a program now in Kitchener-Waterloo. They've been running it for years, where they do orientation classes, where you come, you get to learn about how does it work, what goes on, and then you go on a sample trip And then once you do it once, right, then all of a sudden people are like, that was really easy. What was I afraid of? But it's again, how do we recognize what are some of the barriers, right? Because it might not even be, as Mary Lou was saying, we're building integrated transit. We might give people Presto passes, but let's make sure that we take down those barriers, because once people don't have a barrier, then they're more likely to use things.
That is a good idea. I swear sometimes you need a PhD to figure out how to use those Presto machines. I got horror stories from the first time I tried. Anyway, go ahead,
In
Frank.
Mississauga, our last project that we sold out in Mississauga was the first project that they've done without any parking for cars, with some units without any parking for cars, and it's considered a pilot project. Those units were the first to go, where the older people were buying, knowing that they wouldn't need the car.
Well, let me follow up on that with you, Mary Lou, and we'll put some numbers here. I think Glenn estimates in his report by the year 2036, which is not as far down the road as we think it is, right? About 40% of seniors age 75 plus will no longer have driver's licenses for a variety of reasons. So here's my question. How likely is it that either public transit or self-driving cars are going to step up and fill that gap among those who are accustomed to basically owning their own cars and being very independent, driving themselves everywhere?
I think both are going to have a really positive impact. So in the public transit world, in our last new neighborhood, the Alton Village community, we see multi-generational new Canadian families living in that community in the same house. So there's more access to transit. It is a transit-designed lower density neighborhood, and we are seeing people getting on transit, walking, getting to the community center. There's a fabulous community center, a public library. And I think that's another important piece of it, that there has to be a place to get to, and they're there, if you will. The issue of self-driving cars, it's funny, just today the American Planning Association released their monthly journal, and there's some research out of the University of Florida that says self-driving cars are going to change our cities. And the reason they're going to change our cities is, first of all, they're going to provide access for people that may not own a car any longer. But the other more interesting piece is it's going to narrow the width of the traffic lane, because the width is designed because we're humans, and we look, oh, what's going on over there? What's going on over there? Oh, hey, let's get ice cream. So we tend to weave a bit where a self-driving car won't. So the travel lane can be narrower. So the things we've been talking about, retrofitting suburbs, wider sidewalks, it's going to give us more space in the roadway to put those things in that make it more accessible for everyone.
You're a business guy, so you tell me, what's the smarter business play? More money for public transit or building smarter, better communities?
I think you have to do both. Candidly, I don't think that there's a better play. I think that as a user of public transit, I'm all for it. I can't wait until we get 15-minute GO train service along the Lakeshore Corridor. As smart, from a smart planning point of view, it integrates. It's integral into transit planning. So I would say you need to do both. We need to do both.
Okay, follow-up business plan question here then. Here's again, the quote from Glenn's report. Design for the young and you exclude the old. Design for the old and you include everybody. Does that line make financial sense to you?
Absolutely. Echoing what was said before, what Mary Lou said before, we've seen young people, as we've marched through phases of our developments, more and more younger people moving into our buildings because they're comfortable with the location. They're comfortable with the evolution of what's happening at the street in terms of the places to go, the pedestrian places to go. They're comfortable staying where their parents are, where their grandparents are. And so we have that wide range. We have building, our tall building in Port Credit ranges in size from 730 square feet to 3,800 square feet. So there's nobody worried about a 730 square foot unit being in together with a 3,800 square foot unit. So I think that the key thing that we've learned to do on how to make it flexible for the seniors is to give them a lot of choice and a lot of options in terms of their housing. Their housing needs are different than the younger person's housing needs, but there's no reason we can't plan a selection of units to be flexible for either.
So we actually looked at the Port Credit Village was one of the sites that we looked at. We did some work for the region of Waterloo a few years ago, and we looked at those census tracts. And what I was really interested to see was it's not just older people moving into that area. It's people in their 40s and their 50s. So you're getting that. That sort of mixed demographic, which is good for the community and good for everybody.
Well, let me do this follow-up, because we live in a youth-obsessed culture right now, and these may be wonderful ideas, but my hunch is you can't market this by showing a picture of a very happy 75-year-old couple on a big billboard above your job site. You've still got to show that glamorous, 20 or 30-something couple, right, who are living in splendid luxury and so on. I mean, you got to be careful how you market this, I presume, don't you?
Well, I think Frank's the one who knows this, but when I've been collecting images for presentations on these issues, you get the older couple with the tennis racket and the good teeth, and then you have the younger people using the weight rooms, and it's all mixed in.
It's all mixed in.
That's correct.
That's correct, says the marketer. Should we do board 2 here? Let's do this. A number of cities expressed the need to accommodate the housing requirements of their growing populations of seniors or to support aging in place. References to supportive seniors housing and senior citizens facilities, however, position seniors as a special needs group, like people with disabilities, rather than establishing the basis for substantive policy solutions. It sounds, Glenn, like you're basically asking us to develop with a mind towards the needs of seniors, but heaven forfend we actually call it that.
Well, I think what I was getting at there was the idea that when you're developing policies, you're okay. We've ticked this off. We've mentioned seniors. Okay, move on to the next issue. What I'm trying to encourage is to have the demographic shift that we're going through right now. Let's not forget that the OECD, this was mentioned on your program a couple of weeks ago, the OECD has picked out Canada as being under watch because of the rapid pace of demographic change and the strain it's going to put on our institutions. So we already have more seniors than we do school-age children. So it's going to be a very different world. And I think we have to prepare for that, and we have to build that into our public policy, whether it be official plan or whatever public policy we're doing. We have to take it seriously.
I think part of the issue too is that I think the reason why you see these titles about specific types of housing having to be included is because we find that traditional policy and practices have not actually thought about this growing cohort and the diverse needs they have. We hear the statistic that there's lots of people who, we know that in our society, for example, older people tend to outlive their decision to stop driving by 10 years. And so people viewing will say, well, that's because they're getting their license yanked by their doctors because they have dementia. And that's not the case, right? There's people who just say, I don't want to drive anymore. I'd rather have you drive me around, right? Or, there could be other reasons. There could be physical limitations, other things why people choose to retire from driving early.
Well, with less than a couple of minutes to go here, let me get Mary Lou in on this. I've heard many times tonight, we need all of these different options. Everybody needs all of these different options, except we don't have infinite amounts of money. We have to make hard decisions. Are you sure that we have the adequate resources to provide all of the options that we've talked about here tonight?
There's always going to be struggles with money. There's no question about that. But I think what's worked well in my experience is when we focus on what our priorities are. So a very small example from a prior job I had with the City of Hamilton. We were dealing with replacing an older bridge in the north end of Hamilton, and we actually decided to move the bridge over one street. But as we thought about it more, we said, no, we need to put a pedestrian bridge in here because it was an older community, and that area where the pedestrian bridge was the access to the grocery store. So if we didn't put that bridge back, we were cutting people off, and older adults were not going to be able to walk all the way to the new bridge. And it was the only grocery store within about 10 kilometers. So we need to work across our organizations and start to think differently. One of the interesting things that's happened in Burlington is we have no suburbs left. We have a firm urban boundary. We're not growing beyond where we are. And the new official plan, we've really had to rethink a whole series of things, from what type of communities we're going to be building, they're going to be building up, how we're going to build those communities, and what the resourcing is for those communities, and the costs of building the infrastructure comes with a cost. No matter what type you're building, if you're building up, if you're building out, it comes with a cost. The choice is about what do we want the outcome to be, and that should always be our conversation.
Gotcha. I want to thank all of you for this conversation tonight on TVO. Much appreciated. To Frank Giannone and Mary Lou Tanner, who are the president of Fram Building Group and the commissioner for the City of Burlington, Commissioner of Planning, respectively. And to Glenn Miller, whose report for the IRPP is called No Place to Grow Old, How Canadian Suburbs Can Become Age-Friendly. And Dr. Samir Sinha, who is the provincial lead on the Ontario Senior Strategy. Thanks so much, everybody. Appreciate you coming in tonight.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit TVO.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.